Welcome back to the Hanky Ice Podcast. Back in the mix today, we just had a Sixers game versus the Mavs. A game back for Quentin Grimes, who obviously has been traded from the Mavs to the Sixers for Caleb Martin, who he still hasn't played, right?
He's played like 3 games. I think he's played 3 games for them so far, averaging 2.7 points or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So uh, I know, I know that's a big topic of discussion because Quentin Grimes actually had another great performance for us. So just to jump right into it, talk about Grimes returning to Dallas and scoring 28 points, being a plus 14 on a plus minus, and getting the win. How do you feel about Grimes keeping up the good work?
Um, it's starting to get to not quite McCain territory because I think when it comes to shooting, like Grimes is a really good shooter. He's a shooter, but McCain is more like a potentially elite shooter, especially like with everything in place. You know what I mean? But
Yep.
no need to compare because we have both. And Grimes has done a really good job scoring off drives, getting to the rim and finishing. He's athletic, he's very active.
Yep.
Um, the shot has been good too. But really I just like the way he creates off the dribble. Seems to always be able to get a good shot and get the shot he wants to get, more importantly.
Yeah, I think that's been a big thing for him. He's been able to get his shots, and I believe at the end of the game, our Sixers analysts and commentators, they asked him, they're like, "Yeah, man, are you still learning the playbook?" And he responds with, "To be honest, he's like, I'm just staying aggressive. I'm still learning things, working everything out, but I'm just staying aggressive and just going off of that." So that's pretty impressive for him to still be on this streak where he's scoring over 20 points. He's scoring over 25 points. Like you said, he's fitting right into the offense, and he's taking enough charge to find himself being like a primary scorer for this team, especially with all the primary guys out like Maxey, Oubre, Paul George, and obviously Embiid. Um, Also, with the fact that Maxey and Oubre were out with illnesses, and Maxey still has a back injury. Um, how do you feel about them? How do you feel about them coming back? I mean, because it's gonna be an interesting thing to see them all come back together and have Grimes. Like, is he still gonna be the primary scorer, or can we balance that out? What do you see for the team as far as that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because you don't know who's going to come back and to what extent.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, even though we're losing, I like the way we're playing. You know what I mean? We're playing good.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a lot of guys stepping up, like Jeff Doughton, Jared Butler, and Adem Bona, who we'll talk about later, and a new guy, O'Shea Brissett. He's brought a lot of energy, so the team itself is playing really well. So I'm just hoping that those guys come back and it doesn't turn into, isolation and, things that take away from a lot of the things we've been doing well.
I'm glad you bring that up. That is probably like one of the biggest points is that the team doesn't fall into isolation style because it actually seems like we don't really have quote unquote ISO players. We actually have players who look really well in a team basketball setting. Like even with Grimes, doing his thing out there and lighting it up, he's also still not afraid to move the ball. If you look at the scoreboard tonight, the team was scoring all across the board. Ricky Council had 13. Justin Edwards had 10. Yabusele even had 14. He was also a plus 10. Jared Butler had 8. Jalen Hood-Schifino, he had 19. O'Shea even gave us 13, and Dalton Jr. gave us 14. So they're all scoring. That's a huge point right there to maintain ball movement and keeping and just keeping everybody involved. Uh, obviously, we still would like to see Oubre come back. Like to see Maxey come back, and I think these things would take a load off of Maxey's shoulders. Now, with that being said, you see in the last game against the Pacers, we were missing 8 players. Adem Bona was out just recently though, because of his ankle injury. But now we hear reports of the league investigating the Sixers. Do you think that the notion of us tanking is too obvious, and is that what's causing the investigation?
No, that's all. I don't have much to say on that topic. I think it's foolishness. I think they're injured, so no.
Right, right. I mean, unless they're trying to say that Maxey completely faked a back contusion. We all saw him fall right on his back. Oubre, he's been a pretty healthy player for us, pretty consistent. If he has an illness, he has an illness. And Paul George is already looking like he's going to need surgery. So yeah, I mean, it's looking like they probably really won't find anything, but I think that probably because the media is hyping it up and speaking so much on it, and so many guys are out, and we're just, we are losing, even though we won today, we are losing. But I personally saw this coming. I knew that the league was going to keep a steady watch on us and try to do some type of investigation. But nonetheless, moving on, we do have Bona really impressing lately. Really impressing lately. I believe it says here his last 5 games, according to StatMuse, he averaged 12.2 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 2 blocks within his last 5 games. Talk about how much Adem Bona is actually like really impressing and showing us something for the future.
Well, like Grimes, he's defensive oriented, athletic, energetic, and not just athletic, but also like a physical presence. So, he's been playing with a lot of guards lately that like to move the ball, players like Jared Butler, Jeff Dalton Jr., also Quentin Grimes. So, when he's been able to capitalize off a lot of, pick and rolls as a role man. He plays well, playing the boards and honestly going up strong and creative around the rim.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome to see. Um, I also would like to actually see him continue to build on top of all those skills that he's showing right now. Because some people you hear the talks of him being raw. He's a raw talent, and he has some skills. But I believe that a player like him at his age, he can still actually develop. That's going to be a constant notion with the Sixers, is like having players develop, because we got a lot of talent that just needs to be polished a little bit. And if somebody like Bona, I mean, like if he could, I don't know if he could add like somewhat of like a mid range shot. I mean, he could, his impact. Obviously, it's not going to
Went
be
out.
like Embiid, but like if he can add like a mid range shot or possibly a three, I mean, that could really change some things. What do you think?
Could you repeat that? You said Ebona could add, and then I had a little bit of a glitch. Repeat that for me, please.
Yeah, no problem. I was saying that right now, Bona, with all the great things that he does, that he's bringing to the table with all his energy and all that, there's still things that he could add. And I believe he could realistically add these things like shooting. If he could average, I mean, not average, if he could add some mid-range shooting, those elbow shots. If he could potentially become somewhat of a floor spacer. I mean, he doesn't have to, but if he could, I mean, because he's still young and those things can be developed. How do you think? Well, how do you feel about him adding to his game and like what that could do for us in the future.
Um, as far as um as far as what I would like to see from Adembona, I'd like for him to keep it simple and establish himself as a very strong pick and roll big. I'd like
Mhm.
to see him become more aggressive in his finish attempts. And just kind of lean more just on simple things and establish himself in that way. Because those are things that we wouldn't typically get from like Embiid. You know what I mean? Like rim
Mhm.
running, and catching lobs and stuff. And I think that that's something that's important when Embiid is off the court. So
Exactly,
it
exactly.
would be nice, if he could focus on those simple things.
You know what? That's another great point. If he could polish up some of the simple things, and then again with him being young, then he would even more so have a chance to add things to his game. You know, like more offensive things like things of that nature. Because not to knock Andre Drummond, but one of the disappointments for me is he was around back when Embiid was first coming into the league, and we all remember the infamous battles that him and Drummond, that Embiid and Drummond had, and you just watched as Embiid continued to add to his game. I mean, he already had a skill set with a lot of scoring abilities naturally, but I feel like Drummond, back when he was with Detroit in those days, he never really added too much more to his offensive game. I mean, and it almost seems like his game kind of just got lost in the mix as the game progressed. So, just wouldn't mind seeing Adembona not take that path, not take that route. You know, Even though we did see Drummond shooting threes over the summer, and we saw that we saw him attempting it. So I was like, oh man, is he going to start adding that to his game? But we don't really see it too much now.